All right, hey everybody, welcome back to a Criterium recap. This is the Sunny King Criterium down in Anniston, Alabama. I went down there and raced the Masters 45 plus group. This is a great event. This is an ACC event, so America Crit Cup event. You can see here, it's a rectangle crit course, 4 corners. Pretty cool, pretty fast. But before I begin, bad news. For the second race in a row, I've had video technical issues. Last week, the video stopped recording after about 15 minutes of the race. This week, the whole thing recorded, but 2 of the files were corrupt and would not download. After spending some time with GoPro tech team today, unable to recover those videos. We did get the GoPro completely reset. I did a full recovery ride test of it today, and it worked perfectly, so I should have no issues moving forward. But unfortunately, we've only got about 12 minutes of this race, which is super disappointing because, hey, this is down in Alabama. I drove 11 hours each way to come to this race. I want to be able to take you on this journey with me through these videos, and unfortunately, twice now, I've been unable to do that. So please don't hold that against the channel. The channel will get better. Remember, I'm brand new to these videos, posting them and offering some commentary. That said, let's dive into what we're doing here right now. So we're on lap 1. This is turn 3 on this course. It's at the bottom of a nice little descent. Here we are on the straightaway between turns 3 and turns 4. And when we make this left-hand turn here, we're going to be on the start-finish straightaway, which is a slight uphill the entire way through. We also have a straight headwind on this section. So it's an uphill finish with a headwind and pretty decent distance from turn 4 all the way through to the finish. I wanted to come to Anniston because, as I've said a couple times on this channel, I want to race all over the U.S., but I also want to race against some of the best competition that I can find. Locally, there's some great talent around, but last year I got exposed in places like Tulsa and in Nationals, Intelligentsia, and Toad to really what the national Criterium scene looks like and feels like. And Anniston was really no different. The town did an outstanding job hosting this event. Of course, with it being an ACC event, we had the camera crews there, the announcers were there, and so was the community. The crowds really showed up, and while this is early in the day, it's only about noon when we're racing, and the pro events don't happen until later on in the day, there was still a good crowd forming around outside. So it was a ton of fun, and I'm glad I went, even though I can't share the full experience with you. I will talk through some of these early laps, and I'll give you a heads up as to what happened at the end. Now, the guy on the front of the race right now from Texas Roadhouse, Justin, is the eventual winner of this race, and he was the one person that I was paying a little bit of attention to throughout the race. There weren't a lot of guys in the field, but Justin is certainly strong, and there were some very strong guys in this field. But I knew Justin. I raced against Justin several times over the last year and a half, and he's got the ability to win this race, and eventually he does. He's in the front right now, just setting a nice tempo as we're coming up this back stretch here into the start-finish line, and then I'll take you through the entire course. I would say that the course, aside from turn 3, the roads were really in, I think, great condition. You see the Jumbotron there on the right-hand side of the screen, which is pretty cool in that little town square area for people to kind of congregate and watch. All kinds of street fare and food trucks up and down that road. Here we are going into turn 1. The straightaway between turn 1 and 2 is pretty short, and then from turn 2 all the way to turn 3 is a steady downhill with a pretty strong tailwind today. So it was an easy place to move up, but you definitely had to make sure you had momentum going into turn 3. This guy starts a little bit of a gap open up between Justin and this other rider, and I'm not liking that. I think Justin's strong enough to really kind of take off if he wants to. So I'm going to work a little bit here on this downhill section. With my size, I'm able to kind of descend pretty quickly. This guy's putting in no work, and you see the gap. That's a decent gap for Justin, and I'm going to close that down. I'm just not going to do it right here. We're coming into turn 3, and you'll notice there's some sections of the concrete there that transition from asphalt to like pavement. There's some lines and cracks, and it just creates a little bit of sketchiness into that turn. It's also the tightest of the 4 turns. Here we come out of turn 4, and Justin's not really attacking here. He's just setting his own tempo. But with a headwind, I'm going to work to get on his wheel pretty quick here so that I can get the advantage of the draft. And you can see we're pushing 700 watts, 650 watts moving up this hill, and we're going to do that repeatedly during the course of our race. Now for the pro men and the pro women, whether it was the 60-minute race or the 60-lap race for the men, doing a 600, 700, 800 watt repeat 70, 60 times, I can't even imagine the toll that takes on your legs. So I mentioned it was an 11-hour drive, and people ask me all the time, why won't you just fly? I don't love to fly, and I certainly don't like the idea of flying with my bike. I just load up my truck and my SUV, excuse me, and I drive down. So I got down the night before, got up early, got to the venue, set up my trainer outside of my car, got a really good warm up in, and I just like kind of the whole peacefulness of the drive. Shortly after the race, I loaded back up and drove home. Got home really late that day, but certainly found it doable. You see, it's kind of the same 4 and 5 guys on the front of this race through these first few laps. The first few laps, I would say, were pretty aggressive. It wasn't that there were people trying to force a break or anything like that. I think it was we just weeded out a few folks on the back end that weren't going to be competitive. And then things settled in, and it really settled in. If you look at the power profile, you'll see it. We really started, holding a high-end tempo and really not a race pace until about 4 laps to go, and then we started to pick it back up again. So early in the races, if I don't know a couple of the riders, I try to just observe them and watch them and see what they're doing to try to assess whether or not they're a threat, what they might be thinking about doing, how they're feeling during the race, and just kind of getting a sense for who to mark and how the race is going to unfold. Throughout the race, I felt really good. I never really felt overly stressed or close to my limit. I did struggle with this turn right here, turn 3. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out turn 3. As I mentioned, there's a couple of shifts in the concrete. It was also really bumpy, and I always felt like the bike was bouncing under me when I was taking that turn a little bit from the surface of the road. But it didn't take long for me to realize that the way I think I was going to win this race was to go into turn 3 in second wheel, attack between turn 3 and turn 4, and come out of turn 4 in first wheel, or first place. I felt like whoever came out of turn 4 in the lead would likely win the race. In fact, whatever order you come out of turn 4 is in all likelihood the order that you're going to finish. And so, again, I mentioned there's only about 12 minutes on this video, and we're not going to see the finish, so I'll kind of walk you through that. So with a lap to go, Justin was on the front and I was on his wheel, and it felt like the absolute perfect position. It's the person that I was paying attention to, and I was in a position that I wanted to be in. I didn't want to pass on the downhill, but I was certainly willing to do that if I was in third, fourth, or fifth wheel, but I was in second wheel. So we come into turn 3, Justin goes through, we're going about 33 miles an hour on that downhill into that turn 3, and I'm leaning left with my left foot up and my right foot down. I'm applying the pressure through my right foot, and I don't know how it happened. I have a best guess, but my left foot came unclipped from the pedals completely unclipped. First off, I'm thankful that it didn't result in a crash for myself or anybody behind me, but it was pretty surprising. In all my racing, I've never had that happen. In all frank candidness, I don't think I've had my foot come unclipped in any group ride or just regular ride either. And so, unfortunately, when that happened, there's a moment there where I couldn't pedal, a moment there where I lost momentum, and two people passed me. I was able to reclip, I got clipped back in, and I was able to quickly get back on the power and get through turn 4, but I was now in 4th wheel. So I wanted to come out of turn 4 in 1st wheel, and now I was in 4th wheel. And so unfortunately, exactly like I said, despite a pretty strong finish, finished in 4th, 1 place off the podium, and I went from thinking I had a win in potentially to 4th. And that's difficult, but on the flip side of that, you know, I'm in a position now where I'm looking at ways to win races, where last year I was looking for ways to be competitive in races. So I'm proud of the progression. I'm frustrated about the video. I'm frustrated about unclipping, and the only thing I can think of that caused that is anticipation of making my move, right? Getting a little excited, maybe not being patient, and twisting my foot enough to where it came unclipped when I wanted to really go for that race-winning move. So unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I'm happy a little bit with a 4th place finish. Would have loved to have been on the podium, expected to contend for the win, but that's why we race. Upcoming races, I'm going to be starting some midweek races for a few weeks down in the Columbus, Ohio area called the Columbus Criterium Series. Got the final weekend of the races at the lake in Monroe Falls. I'm going to do the Fat and Skinny Tire Bike race in Indiana. So much more to come. Please continue to watch these videos, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate you following. Thanks so much.